2 hours after we buried my son Marcus, his fourth-grade teacher called me. "Mrs. Richardson, there's something at the school you need to see. Something Marcus left behind. Can you come now, before they clean out his desk?" Her voice was shaking. I didn't want to go. I wanted to crawl into bed and never wake up. But something in Ms. Chen's tone made me drive to Riverside Elementary anyway. What I found in that classroom didn't just break my heart. It revealed a truth so devastating that by the time the sun set that day, 3 lives would be destroyed, 1 person would be in handcuffs, and I would understand that my son's death wasn't the accident everyone thought it was. Before I tell you exactly what Ms. Chen showed me, please subscribe to this channel and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. Stories like this need to be shared because predators hide in plain sight, even in our schools, even around our children. My name is Patricia Richardson, and I'm about to tell you how my 9-year-old son's final project exposed the monster who killed him. The funeral was small. March 15th, 2024. Cold rain that felt like the sky itself was grieving. Marcus had only been at Riverside Elementary for 7 months. We moved to Portland, Oregon, last August after my divorce from his father, trying to start fresh. Marcus made friends slowly. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of kid who'd rather read than play video games. The kind who noticed things other people missed. The police said it was an accident. Marcus had been riding his bike home from school on March 8th when a car struck him on Belmont Street. Hit and run. The driver never stopped. Security cameras in the area were broken or pointed the wrong way. No witnesses. No license plate. My baby was found 20 minutes later by a jogger, already gone. Internal injuries too severe. The doctors said he died quickly, that he didn't suffer. I didn't believe them then. I don't believe him now. At the funeral, people said the things people say. He's in a better place. God needed another angel. Time heals all wounds. Ms. Chun, his teacher, stood in the back of the chapel. She was 34, petite, with dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She'd been teaching at Riverside for 3 years. Marcus liked her. He came home excited about her classes, about the creative writing assignments she gave, about how she actually listened when kids talked. But at the funeral, Ms. Chun looked terrified. She kept glancing at someone in the crowd. I followed her gaze, but couldn't tell who she was watching. When people came through the receiving line, she hung back, only approached me after everyone else had left. "Mrs. Richardson," she whispered, gripping my hand too hard. "I need to talk to you. Privately. Today. I just buried my son 2 hours ago. It's about Marcus. Something he was working on. Something." She looked over her shoulder. "Not here. Can you come to the school? Room 204. I'll wait for you." I should have said no. Should have gone home and let grief swallow me whole. But something in her eyes, some desperate urgency, made me nod. 2 hours later, I pulled into Riverside Elementary's parking lot. The building looked different without children. Empty. Hollow. Like me. Ms. Chen's car was the only other vehicle there. A gray Honda Civic parked near the back entrance. I walked through the silent hallways, my footsteps echoing off the lockers. Room 204 was at the end of the second-floor corridor. The door was open. Ms. Chen stood at her desk, holding a folder. When she saw me, she quickly closed the classroom door behind me and locked it. "Ms. Chun, what's this about?" She opened the folder with trembling hands. Marcus was working on a project for my class, a personal narrative essay. Students were supposed to write about something important in their lives, something true. She pulled out several pages of lined paper covered in Marcus's neat handwriting. He was writing about someone he called the friendly man. My blood went cold. What friendly man? That's what I need you to help me understand. She spread the papers across her desk. "Mrs. Richardson, this essay describes an adult male who's been approaching Marcus after school for the past 2 months, giving him gifts, asking him to keep secrets, making him uncomfortable." I grabbed the papers. Marcus's words, written in blue ink, swam before my eyes. The friendly man started talking to me in January. He always waits by the bike racks after school. He knows my name. He knows things about me, like that my parents are divorced and that I like science fiction books. He gave me a model rocket kit and said it was a secret present, that I shouldn't tell Mom because she'd make me return it. He asked me to meet him at the park on Saturday. I said no, but he got really quiet and stared at me in a way that made my stomach hurt. I think the friendly man is following me. I looked up at Miss Chun. Why didn't he tell me? The essay says he was scared. Scared you'd be angry. Scared you wouldn't believe him. Scared the friendly man would hurt you if Marcus told. She pointed to another paragraph. But here, at the end, Marcus writes that he was going to tell someone anyway. That he couldn't keep the secret anymore. That it was wrong. When did he write this? He turned it in on March 7th, the day before he died. Miss Chin's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Mrs. Richardson, I don't think Marcus's death was an accident. The room tilted. I gripped the desk to stay upright. You think this person killed him? I think someone didn't want Marcus to talk. She pulled out another paper. This is a drawing Marcus made for art class 2 weeks ago. I only saw it today when I was cleaning out his desk. The drawing showed a man standing next to a silver car. The man had no face, just a blank oval. But Marcus had drawn details on the car. A dent on the front bumper. A specific license plate number, 7KJB 394. He drew the license plate. I breathed. Marcus noticed everything, Ms. Chun said. He was the kind of student who remembered every detail. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. We need to call the police. Wait. Ms. Chun grabbed my wrist. There's more. Something I need to tell you first. Something I should have realized sooner. She took a deep breath. I think I know who the friendly man is. My heart stopped. Ooh, 2 months ago, we had parent-teacher conferences. A man came to discuss Marcus's progress. He said he was your new boyfriend, that you'd asked him to attend because you were working late. Her face went pale. I didn't question it. He knew so much about Marcus, about your divorce, about your work schedule. He seemed legitimate. I don't have a boyfriend, I said slowly. I know that now. But at the time, he was so convincing. He asked detailed questions about Marcus's daily routine, when school let out, which door he used, where the bike racks were. She covered her mouth. Oh God, I gave him information. I help him. What did he look like? White male, maybe 40, average height, brown hair, glasses. He was wearing a gray suit. Professional. Forgettable. She paused. But there was one thing. He had a ring, a distinctive silver ring with a black stone on his right hand. I remembered it because he kept tapping it on the desk while we talked. Tap, tap, tap. It was distracting. I stared at Marcus's drawing, at that license plate number. Ms. Chun, did you keep a sign-in sheet from conferences? She nodded, pulling out a binder. Everyone who enters the building has to sign in. Here. She pointed to a signature from January 23rd. The handwriting was neat, precise. The name, Robert Chun. Chun? Is that? My ex-husband, she whispered. We divorced 2 years ago. It was bad. He was controlling, obsessive. When I left him, he threatened me, said he'd destroy my life, that I'd regret leaving him. Her hand shook, but I thought he'd moved on. I haven't heard from him in over a year. Until he showed up at parent-teacher conferences using your last name to gain credibility. I think he's been stalking me through Marcus. Ms. Chin's voice broke. Watching the school, watching my students. And Marcus noticed. Marcus was going to expose him. So Robert, she couldn't finish. I looked at the license plate number again. 7KJB 394. Ms. Chun, what kind of car does your ex-husband drive? Her face drained of all color. A silver Camry, with a dent on the front bumper from when he hit a mailbox during one of our fights. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. But I needed proof. I needed more than a teacher's suspicion and a 9-year-old's drawing. I needed Robert Chun to reveal himself. Do you have his phone number? I asked. Yes, but why? Because we're going to set a trap. I pulled out my phone, and we're going to make him confess. Miss Chun stared at me. Ow! I thought about Marcus. About his careful observations, his attention to detail, his bravery in writing that essay, even though he was scared. My son had given me the tools I needed. Now I just had to use them. You said Robert was obsessive, that he wanted to destroy your life after you left him. Yes. Then he's been watching you. Probably still is. I looked around the empty classroom. He knows you're here right now. He might even know I'm here. You think he's outside? I think he's never far from you. I stood up and walked to the window. The parking lot was empty except for our 2 cars. But across the street, partially hidden by trees, sat a silver Camry. Even from this distance, I could see the dent on the front bumper. My hands clenched into fists. The man who killed my son was 100 feet away. Ms. Chun, I said quietly, call the police. Tell them everything. Give them this address, this license plate number, Marcus's essay. Tell them a murder suspect is parked across from the school. What are you going to do? I turned to face her. For 7 days, I'd felt nothing but grief. But now, standing in my son's classroom, holding his final written words, I felt something else. Something cold and sharp and absolutely certain. I'm going to make sure Robert Chin never hurts another child again. But before I could move, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice, calm and pleasant. Hello, Patricia. I've been waiting for you to figure it out. I walked to the window while Ms. Chun dialed 911. Across the street, I could see movement in the silver Camry. A man holding a phone to his ear. Even from this distance, I could see the glint of a silver ring. You killed my son, I said. Your son was a problem, Robert replied. He saw me watching Jennifer. He was going to tell people. I couldn't allow that. So you ran him down with your car. I did what was necessary. His voice remained eerily calm. Jennifer thinks she can escape me by getting a new job, a new life. But I'm always there. I'm always watching. And when her students start noticing, when they start asking questions, I eliminate the problem. My blood ran ice cold. Students? Plural? A pause. Then, Marcus wasn't the first. Ms. Chun grabbed my arm, having heard his words. Her face went white. Oh my God. Oh my God. Last year. Tommy Chun. Different last name. No relation to me. He was my student. He died in a drowning accident at the community pool. No accident, Robert said through the phone. I could hear the smile in his voice. Tommy saw me following Jennifer home one day. He told his parents a strange man was watching their teacher. 2 days later, Tommy went swimming alone. These things happen. I wanted to vomit. You're a monster. I'm a man who understands that some women need reminders. Jennifer needs to remember that leaving me was a mistake. That she'll never be free of me. That everyone around her will suffer until she comes back. The police are on their way, I said. It's over. Is it? Robert's voice turned cold. You're in room 204 right now. Second floor. East side of the building. I can see you in the window, Patricia. You and Jennifer, standing together. How convenient. I yanked Ms. Chun away from the window. He's threatening us. Through the phone, I heard a car door open. I have a gun in my glove compartment. I'm walking toward the school now. The doors are locked, but I know how to get in through the maintenance entrance. Jennifer showed me once, back when we were married. Isn't that funny? She gave me the keys to her prison. Miss Chin was crying. The police said 5 minutes. They're coming from the downtown station. 5 minutes. An eternity. I looked around the classroom for weapons, for exits, for anything. We were on the second floor. The windows didn't open wide enough to climb through. One door, and Robert Chin was already in the building. Then I remembered something. I'd been a prosecutor before Marcus was born. 12 years in the district attorney's office. I knew how men like Robert Chin thought. They were controlling because they were terrified of losing control. They stalked because they were obsessed with power. And they could never resist the opportunity to gloat. Robert, I said into the phone, before you come up here, I need to understand something. Oh, he sounded amused. Last requests. Marcus's essay. He described your car, your license plate, everything. But he never described your face. What? Because I was always careful. I wore different clothes, baseball caps, sunglasses. Your son was observant, but he never got close enough to see me clearly. But he knew you were dangerous. Children have instincts. Adults ignore them. That's why children are so easy to manipulate. I could hear his footsteps now, echoing through the empty school hallways. He was inside, and your son, Patricia, he was particularly perceptive, which made him particularly dangerous. So you waited until he was alone on his bike, hit him at a cross-section with no cameras, made it look like a random hit-and-run. Exactly. Pride in his voice. I've thought about every detail. I've planned every possibility. That's what Jennifer never understood. I'm always 3 steps ahead. I looked at Ms. Chun and mouthed. Recording? She nodded, held up her phone. She'd been recording the entire call. Robert, I said loudly, clearly, To be absolutely certain I understand, you're confessing that you murdered my 9-year-old son Marcus Richardson by striking him with your vehicle, license plate 7KJB 394, on March 8th, 2024 on Belmont Street, because he witnessed you stalking your ex-wife Jennifer Chun? A pause, then laughter. Oh, Patricia, are you recording this? How quaint. Do you think that matters? I'll be gone before the police arrive. I'll disappear like I always do. And Jennifer will spend the rest of her life knowing that everyone around her dies because of her choices. His footsteps were closer now. Second floor, maybe 30 seconds away. One more question, I said. The other student, Tommy Chun, how did you kill him? Held him underwater until he stopped struggling. It was surprisingly easy. The pool was empty. No cameras. His parents thought he'd simply drowned. Tragic accident. His voice turned ice cold. Your son's death was faster. I'm not a monster, Patricia. I'm efficient. You're right about one thing, I said. You're efficient. You just confessed to 2 murders on a recorded line. The Portland police have been listening to every word. They're not 5 minutes away, Robert. They're in the parking lot. They've been there for the past 3 minutes, surrounding your car. And the SWAT team is currently entering through the main entrance behind you. The footsteps stopped. What? Miss Chun didn't call 911 on her phone. She called on a classroom landline, the one connected to the school's security system, the one that automatically records and transmits to emergency services. The police heard everything from the moment you said, your son was a problem. Through the phone, I heard voices shouting, "Police! Get on the ground! Drop the weapon!" Robert screamed, then the line went dead. Ms. Chun and I stood frozen in the classroom. 30 seconds later, we heard footsteps running up the stairs. A police officer appeared at her door. "Mrs. Richardson? Ms. Chun? You're safe. Suspect is in custody." My legs gave out. I collapsed into a student's desk. Marcus's essay still clutched in my hand. It was over. The monster who killed my son was going to prison. But the pain wasn't over. The grief wasn't over. And I still had to go home to an empty house where my child would never return. The next 3 months moved like a nightmare in slow motion. Robert Chun was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of stalking, attempted murder of myself and Ms. Chun, and weapons charges. The recorded confession, combined with Marcus's essay, the drawing, and forensic evidence that matched Robert's Camry to the hit and run, made the case airtight. The prosecution moved fast. Robert's lawyer tried to claim insanity, but the detailed planning, the previous murder of Tommy Chun, and his own words on the recording proved he knew exactly what he was doing. In June, he was convicted on all counts. The judge gave him life in prison without possibility of parole. At the sentencing, I read a victim impact statement. I told the court about Marcus, about his love of science fiction, his careful observations, his bravery in writing that essay, even though he was terrified, about how my son had spent his final days trying to protect his teacher, trying to stop a predator, try to do the right thing. Marcus was 9 years old, I said, looking directly at Robert Chun. He should be finishing 4th grade right now. He should be complaining about homework and asking for a new bike and reading Harry Potter for the 3rd time. Instead, I visit his grave every Sunday. And I'll do that for the rest of my life. Not because of an accident, not because of random chance, but because this man decided my son's life was worth less than his obsession. Robert Chun showed no emotion. He stared straight ahead, that silver ring still on his finger, and said nothing. But as they led him away, Ms. Chun stepped forward. "Robert, look at me." He turned. "I want you to know something," she said quietly. "For 2 years, I was terrified of you. I jumped at shadows. I changed my routines. I let you control my life, even after the divorce. But Marcus freed me. A 9-year-old boy who barely knew me saw what you were and refused to let you continue. He was braver than I ever was. And every day I teach, every student I help, every life I touch, that's Marcus's legacy. That's what he died protecting. And you? You'll die alone in a cell, forgotten, powerless. That's your legacy." The bailiff led Robert away. He didn't look back. After the trial, the Portland School District conducted a full investigation. They discovered that Robert had been on campus multiple times over the past year, using various excuses to gain entry. The security protocols were completely overhauled. All visitors now require ID checks, verified appointments, and escorts. The bike rack area where Robert had approached Marcus got additional security cameras. Tommy Chin's death was reclassified from accidental drowning to murder. His parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the community pool for inadequate supervision and safety measures. They won. Ms. Chin took a leave of absence from teaching. The trauma of discovering she'd been stalked through her students, that children had died because of her ex-husband's obsession, nearly destroyed her. She spent 3 months in intensive therapy. But in September, she came back to Riverside Elementary. She said she owed it to Marcus to continue teaching, to protect her students the way he'd tried to protect her. The school dedicated a memorial garden in Marcus's honor, a quiet space with his favorite plants, with books he'd loved, in a little free library, with a plaque that read, Marcus Richardson, age 9. He saw danger and spoke truth. He was brave when it mattered most. On the 1-year anniversary of Marcus's death, I stood in that garden with Ms. Chun and about 50 other people. Parents, students, teachers, community members who'd been touched by the story. A local news station had covered the trial, and Marcus's bravery had resonated throughout Portland. A reporter approached me afterward. Mrs. Richardson, how do you feel now that justice has been served? I looked at the memorial garden, at the empty space where my son should have been standing. Justice doesn't bring him back, I said, but it means his death wasn't meaningless. Marcus saved lives. He exposed a predator. He protected other children by being willing to speak up, even when he was scared. That's more than most adults do. What would you want other parents to know? I thought about that, about all the times Marcus had tried to tell me something was wrong, and I've been too busy or too distracted to really listen. About the secrets he'd kept because he was scared I'd be angry or wouldn't believe him. Listen to your children, I said. Really listen. When they say someone makes them uncomfortable, believe them. When they talk about keeping secrets, investigate. Children don't have the same instincts as adults. They can't always articulate why something feels wrong. But they know. They always know. Marcus knew. He wrote an entire essay about it. And if I just asked him more questions, if I just paid closer attention to his behavior in those final weeks, maybe he'd still be here. The guilt would never fully leave. But I'd learned to carry it differently, to transform it into action. I started a nonprofit called Marcus's Voice, dedicated to teaching children about predatory behavior and giving them language to describe uncomfortable situations. We partnered with schools throughout Oregon to provide free assemblies and resources. In the first year, we reached 12,000 students. In 3 of those schools, children came forward about adults who'd been approaching them inappropriately. All 3 cases were investigated. 2 arrests were made. Marcus's essay became the cornerstone of our educational materials. With permission from the school district, we shared excerpts that showed how he'd documented his concerns, how he'd noted specific details, how he'd been brave enough to write it down even when he was scared. This is what we're teaching kids to do, I told parents at our workshops. Observe, document, tell trusted adults. Marcus did everything right. He wrote about the friendly man without exaggeration or hysteria. He noted facts, dates, times, specific conversations, the license plate number. He created a record that ultimately convicted his killer. Every child can learn to do this. Every child should learn to do this. Ms. Chin became a board member of Marcus's Voice. She trained teachers on recognizing signs of stalking behavior and protecting vulnerable students. She spoke at conferences about her experience, about how she'd unknowingly given Robert information that he'd used to target Marcus, about the importance of verifying relationships and questioning assumptions. I thought I was being helpful, she told an audience of 200 educators. A man came to parent-teacher conferences saying he was the student's mother's boyfriend. He knew details about the family situation. He was well-dressed and articulate. I didn't question it. I gave him information about the child's schedule, routine, vulnerabilities. And that information was used to kill that child. Her voice broke. We can't be naive anymore. We can't assume that every adult who shows interest in a child has good intentions. Verify relationships. Trust your instincts. Protect your students like their lives depend on it, because they do. 2 years after Marcus's death, I received a letter. It was from a woman named Sarah Martinez in Eugene, Oregon. She wrote, "Dear Mrs. Richardson, I want you to know that your son saved my daughter's life. Last month, a man started talking to my 10-year-old daughter Emma after soccer practice. He knew her name, knew details about our family, gave her gifts. Emma remembered the assembly from Marcus's voice at her school. She remembered the story about the boy who documented everything when an adult made him uncomfortable. So Emma wrote it all down. Times, dates, conversations, a description of the man and his car. She told me about it immediately. We called the police. The man turned out to be a registered sex offender who'd been banned from school grounds. He's now back in prison for violating his parole. Emma is safe because Marcus taught her what to watch for. Because you turned your grief into action. Thank you for saving my daughter." I read that letter 3 times, crying harder each time. Then I framed it and hung it in my office next to Marcus's school photo. This is why I kept going. This was the meaning I'd found in meaningless tragedy. At night, when the grief threatened to swallow me whole, I'd read Marcus's essay again. The one Ms. Chun had given me that day in the classroom. I'd memorized every word, but I still needed to see his handwriting, to touch the paper his hands had touched, to remember that he'd been real and brave and good. The essay ended with a paragraph I hadn't shown to the reporters or the police or anyone else. It was too personal, too raw. Marcus had written, "I know I should tell Mom about the friendly man, but I'm scared she'll worry too much. She's been so sad since the divorce. I don't want to make her sadder. But Ms. Chun says in writing class that brave people do hard things even when they're scared. So I'm going to be brave. I'm going to tell Mom this weekend. I'm going to show her this essay. And maybe she'll be proud that I noticed danger and spoke up. That's what brave people do. They protect the people they love." He never got the chance to show me. Robert Chun made sure of that. But reading those words, I understood that Marcus had been protecting me all along. Not from the friendly man, but from more worry, more pain, more sadness. My 9-year-old son had been trying to carry a burden alone, so I wouldn't have to. "I'm proud of you, baby," I whispered to his photo. "You were the bravest person I ever knew." 3 years after Marcus's death, the ripple effects of his story continued spreading. Marcus's voice had reached 50,000 students across 6 states. 12 predators had been identified and arrested after children came forward using the observation and documentation techniques we taught. Emma Martinez, the girl whose life Marcus had saved through his story, became a junior ambassador for the nonprofit, speaking at schools about her experience. Robert Chun remained in Oregon State Penitentiary, serving his life sentence. Ms. Chun got a restraining order that extended beyond prison walls, preventing him from contacting her or any family members after his death. She'd moved to a new city, changed her name legally, and rebuilt her life with the kind of courage Marcus had shown in his final days. The Portland Police Department created a new protocol for investigating hit-and-run accidents involving children. If the victim had reported any concerning adult behavior in the weeks before the incident, the case was automatically escalated to the Major Crimes Unit. Marcus's Law, they called it. 3 cases in 2 years were reclassified from accidents to homicides because of this protocol. 3 families got justice because my son's story changed how investigators thought. On what would have been Marcus's 13th birthday, I returned to Riverside Elementary. The memorial garden had grown. Students had added flowers, painted rocks with messages, left books they thought Marcus would have enjoyed. Miss Chun met me there. "I brought something," she said, pulling a folder from her bag. "Marcus wrote this 2 days before he died. I found it when I was organizing old files. It's a short story for a creative writing class. The story was called The Boy Who Saw. It was about a 4th grader who notices that his teacher is being followed by a mysterious man. The boy gathers evidence, tells the police, and the bad guy is arrested. Everyone is safe. The boy is a hero. He was writing the ending he wanted," Ms. Chun said softly. "The one where the good guys win and nobody dies." I traced my son's handwriting with trembling fingers. He got part of it right. The bad guy was arrested. We are safer. But Marcus didn't get to be here for it. No. I closed the folder carefully. But his words are. His story is. And that's a kind of immortality, isn't it? Every child who learns to speak up, Every predator who gets caught, every family that stays safe, Marcus did that. His voice keeps speaking even though he's gone. We sat in silence in the garden, surrounded by the flowers and the books and the painted rocks. Somewhere in the school building, children were laughing and learning and living the lives Marcus should have lived. But his absence had created something too. A legacy of awareness, of bravery, of speaking truth even when it's terrifying. Looking back at this true story, I realized the lessons I learned came at the highest price possible. If you're listening to stories like mine, hoping you'll never face losing a child to a predator, let me give you advice. Don't wait like I did. Trust your children's instincts. When they say someone makes them uncomfortable, believe them immediately. Marcus tried to handle it alone because he didn't want to worry me. How many other children are doing the same thing right now? Teach your kids to document. Dates, times, descriptions, license plates. These details save lives. Marcus's careful observations gave us everything we needed to convict his killer. Without that essay and that drawing, Robert Chun might have gotten away with murder. Verify relationships at school. When someone claims to be a parent's partner or a family friend, call the parent directly to confirm. Ms. Chin's guilt over giving Robert information nearly destroyed her. It could have been prevented with a simple phone call. Look for patterns in accidents. Tommy Chin's drowning was ruled accidental. It wasn't. How many other children have been murdered by predators who made it look like an accident? Question everything. Push for thorough investigations. This true story isn't unique. Child predators are everywhere now. They're sophisticated, patient, and calculating. They study their victims. They manipulate adults. They plan meticulously. Robert Chun stalked his ex-wife through her students. How many other stalkers are doing the same thing? How many other children are noticing but staying silent? Every story like mine is a warning to others. I'm standing here 3 years later not because justice healed me. It didn't, but because I refused to let Marcus's death be meaningless. If one child stays safe because of his story, then his bravery mattered. If one predator gets caught because a kid learned to document like Marcus did, then his short life had purpose. People ask me all the time, how do you keep going? The answer is simple. I keep going because Marcus would want me to. Because giving up would mean Robert Chun won. Because every child we save through Marcus's voice is a piece of my son living on in the world. Blood may be thicker than water, but a mother's love is thicker than death. Marcus is gone, but I'm still his mother. I'm still protecting children the way I wish I could have protected him. That's my job now. That's what I owe my brave, observant, careful son who spent his last days trying to save his teacher from a monster. If this story resonated with you, if you have children or work with children or care about child safety, I have 3 requests. First, talk to the kids in your life about uncomfortable adults. Use Marcus's story if it helps. Teach them that keeping secrets about adults is never okay. Teach them to document what they observe. Teach them that their safety matters more than being polite. Second, verify everything at schools. Don't assume adults who show interest in children have good intentions. Question relationships. Demand ID checks. Make it harder for predators to access kids. Third, if you work with children and a child tells you about an uncomfortable adult, believe them immediately and investigate thoroughly. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it. Don't assume it's innocent. Children's instincts are remarkably accurate. Marcus knew something was wrong with Robert Chun from the first encounter. He was right. Share this story. Leave a comment about how you're keeping kids safe in your community. Subscribe to channels that share true stories about child safety. Your support helps these crucial messages reach parents and educators who need them. Marcus Richardson was 9 years old when he died. He should be 13 now. He should be in 8th grade, rolling his eyes at his mom, reading science fiction, noticing details about the world around him. Instead, he's a story, a lesson, a warning. But he's also a hero, and I'll spend every remaining day of my life making sure people remember that. Thank you for listening to my son's story. Thank you for caring about children's safety. Thank you for being the kind of person who reads to the end, who pays attention, who might recognize a dangerous pattern because you heard about Marcus. And to all the children out there who feel uncomfortable around an adult but don't know if you should say something, Say something. Tell everyone. Write it down like Marcus did. You're not overreacting. You're not being dramatic. You're being smart and brave. Your voice matters. Your safety matters. Marcus's voice is still speaking. Through me. Through this story. Through every child who learns to recognize danger and refuse to keep secrets. That's the power of truth. That's the power of one brave boy who refused to stay silent. Rest in peace, my beautiful brave boy. Your mom is still fighting. Your story is still saving lives. And you'll never, ever be forgotten.